What's going on, Packers Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Packers Latest. As always, I am your host, Taylor Bretl, keeping you up to date on the latest news of the green and gold Green Bay Packers. Happy Wednesday to all of you watching out there, whether you're live or you're going to find this video later in the day. I appreciate you tuning in. I've appreciated the viewership on the past couple of videos. I'm seeing that start to rise, and that makes me really happy as I'm trying to build a strong community here with fans of the green and gold, or maybe anyone that just wants to stay up to date on the Packers. Maybe you're an opposing fan like a Minnesota fan wanting to see what's going on with this Green Bay team before you face them on a Sunday. But nonetheless, always happy to have you guys here. Feel free to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, do anything as you please. I'll make sure to read through those comments and the subscribing, the liking, anything that can support this channel and help build this community is always appreciated by me and appreciated by the couple hundreds that have been watching over the past couple of days, which once again, I appreciate ever so very much. We're going to start off this episode talking about Jayden Reed and how he's hinting towards a return. On X on Tuesday, Jayden Reed posted a photo of him, what looked like he was gearing up. That's how I read the photo. Obviously, no text on the photo. It's like I'm me trying to read a picture book when I was in kindergarten or something like that. You got to see what the photo means. You got to take the context clues because there's no words attached with it. But this post has like 1.5 million views, I believe, and there's literally no caption. It is just that photo of Jayden Reed suiting up. He kind of maybe looks like this, like he's going to adjust the pads. He's already got the helmet on, and that is getting the comments to go like crazy. The threads off that post are going like crazy. If you want to find it, his X handle is Jayden Reed and the number 5, and that is some speculation that maybe he is looking to come back. I wrote a couple things on this as well, per Matt Schneidman on X as well. We kind of talked about this in the last episode with Marshawn Lloyd. Reed was in these talks about opening this practice window. Schneidman on X posted saying, Matt LaFleur with a big smile when asked if they're opening up any 21-day practice windows this week, and LaFleur saying he hopes so. So, this says we'll have to wait and see until Wednesday, which is today, but no news is out on it yet, for a better idea on Jayden Reed and Marshawn Lloyd, who we did talk about in that last episode. But that would be a huge addition to get back, especially for an offense, which, got to give them their credit, scored 27 points in the win against New York. But it is an offense that is struggling overall, and I don't think that's a hot take to say that. I think it's pretty clear with what has been seen on the field, especially just with all these injuries. Elton Jenkins likely out for the year. Tucker Kraft is out for the year. Reed's been out for this whole season. So to get one of those guys back in Reed would be such a huge plus. Looking at Reed's stats this season, once again, he got hurt in that Week 2 game against the Washington Commanders, so it really is just one game worth of stats. 3 catches, 45 yards, but he did have a touchdown in that. Starting off the season hot, it's unfortunate that he's been out for the rest of it. But looking at last season, Reed was definitely the Packers wide receiver 1, and this is why it's so important to have him back. I know a lot of people view this Packers wide receiving room as a lot of wide receiver 2s. They don't really have a guy. But last season in 2024, Jayden Reed was the guy. He led the Packers in receptions with 55 of them, in receiving yards with 857, yards per game at just a touch over 50, and also yards per carry. I know that's a little interesting of a stat to put out there. He only had 20 carries, but they went for 163 yards, which is good enough for 8.1 yards per carry. Obviously, you look at a guy like Jacobs, he's getting a couple hundred of carries on the season, and it's nearly impossible for a running back to average over 8 yards a carry when you're carrying the football that much. So, leading the Packers in that, there was no minimum on it. You just filter the stats, and Reed did lead that category. But it is nice to see, he's a receiver, but he can run those end arounds really well. 20 carries for 163 yards. Matt LaFleur's trying to get the rookies and Savion Williams and Matthew Golden involved in those Reed-type plays, and they're just not really working. I mean, a lot of them going to Golden, and it's just not working. Like, I want to put more of a point on that, but it's just not working. I don't know, like, if the blocking's different. I don't know what it is with it, but it feels like when Reed runs them, maybe he reads it better, no pun intended with his last name. Reed reads it better because he's been with the Packers longer. He's still young, so you can't really call him a vet yet, but in comparison to Golden and Williams, who are rookies, Reed looks like a vet to them. Maybe he's got more experience in that. Not sure really what the thing that's not connecting between the production that Golden and Williams can give on those similar plays that Reed is finding success in. Obviously, that's something that you just have to see on the field and kind of judge for yourself. But getting Jayden Reed back would be a huge plus. But again, this 21-day practice window could open up. It's not like he will be back this Sunday against Minnesota, but still positives for a team that is the number 6 seed in the NFC, and that is just behind the Chicago Bears, just barely at 6-3-1, with the Bears being at 7-3, Packers at 6-3-1 for the top of the NFC North. But we got to transition, if you want to get atop the NFC North, you got to be good on all sides of the football. And we got to talk about Green Bay at their new lows with this punt return unit. My gosh, there's a reason I put this after the Reed point as well, because Jayden Reed was the guy returning punts for the Green Bay Packers, and it has been so evident that him missing in that department has just made it, respectfully, has made it ugly to watch, has made it hard to watch. Anytime a team is punting the ball away to the Packers, you're not really expecting a big play or a return. The Packers haven't had a punt return for a touchdown since Micah Hyde in 2014 against the Lions. I believe that's accurate, but nonetheless, it is not pretty this season. I saw this on X as well. 45 NFL players have returned 3 or more punts this season. And in yards per attempt, again, 45 players have returned 3 or more punts this season. And looking at the average yards per attempt, 43rd, Romeo Doubs at 5.8. 44th, Matthew Golden at 4.7. Keyshawn Nixon at 1 in 45th place. The Packers holding 43rd, 44th, and 45th on a list of 45 total guys. That is as bad as you can get. That is something that needs to get fixed and get fixed fast. And I think with Reed coming back, at some point, that will really, really save that department. But it's going to be, a couple weeks, maybe a whole month until Reed's back able to save that department. It is just not a pretty sight to see. I know Reed's been the previous point, but he definitely blends into this one as well. You look at Jayden Reed with Green Bay in the punt return unit. 2023 average 8.5 yards per return. 2024 it notched down just a tad at 7.9 yards per return. And 2025 this season, it was just 2 attempts, again getting hurt so early into the season, but it was 2 attempts for 21 yards, which averages out to 10.5 yards per return. That is significantly better than Romeo Doubs, that leads this group near the bottom of the barrel for the Packers at 5.8 yards. Obviously, it's not eye-popping with Reed being at, about 8 per attempt, but it is definitely better than the very, very bottom, and you can say very bottom, for the last 3 spots on that list. Once again, that post, I believe I'm pronouncing this name right, by Daire Carragher, I believe. Daire is his first name, and Carragher is his last name. He puts out a lot of great content on the Green Bay Packers, so make sure to check him out. I get a lot of these fun stats from him to help me provide that fun content to you guys. So definitely check him out. But enough talk with this punt return unit. It is, it's definitely a huge struggle, needs to be fixed, but there's really not much more to say. I mean, you see it on the field. Reed's missing. They're trying to plug and play guys who can really be the punt return man, and none of these guys are built to be it, so I'm not trying to blame them too much. I mean, Romeo Doubs probably did not expect to be returning punts entering the season. Same goes for Matthew Golden. Keyshawn Nixon, he has returned in the past, but it's usually just kickoffs. And after that Eagles playoff loss, he said he really didn't want to return in general and focus more on being a cornerback, and here we are. But anyway, we got to look at this matchup coming up on Sunday. We're going to touch on many things as we get closer to Sunday against Minnesota. And we're looking at the Packers defense versus J.J. McCarthy, this quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. His first year starting for them last year. He was a rookie, but he was hurt, did not play. So technically this feels like his rookie year, but it is his second year in the NFL, and he has also been battling some injuries himself, but now he is back in there for Minnesota. and things have not been the prettiest, not to the level that the Vikings are looking for. In 5 games this season for JJ McCarthy, he holds just a 2-3 record, but 3 of those games come against the NFC North. 3 of those 5 in division. He's 1-1 against the Bears, and he did take down the Detroit Lions. So a 2-3 record in starts this season, but a 2-1 record against division opponents, which is something to note with the Green Bay Packers, a very familiar division opponent coming up this Sunday. You look more into the numbers: 6 passing touchdowns to 8 interceptions, just 52.9% completion, and he has been sacked 15 times in those 5 games. Clear things that some defenses are doing, putting the pressure on the young quarterback. 15 sacks in 5 games. If you do that math, that's about 3 sacks. Shouldn't even say about. That is averaging out to 3 sacks a game. Those are not pretty numbers outside of the passing numbers that are rather quiet. But JJ McCarthy is a mobile quarterback. He has 21 carries for 110 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns as well. But hey, if I am Jeff Hafley and this Packers defense, I blitz. Make McCarthy panic. Make him run against you. He has not been great in the air. I would keep putting the pressure on him and make him make quick decisions. Like I said, in those 2 wins, they do come both against division opponents. In those 2 wins, he threw just 1 interception apiece. And in the 3 losses, he threw 2 interceptions per game in all of those. So if you look at an interception line, like over under 1.5 interceptions, if he's throwing 2, Packers likely coming away with a win. Obviously, it's just 5 games. Not too many games to build off of if you want to find a trend in that one. But if JJ McCarthy is throwing 2 interceptions, you are likely coming away with a win. That is definitely interesting to note because he's thrown at least an interception in every single game he's played. But he does have 2 wins within those, and it's the games where he's thrown just 1. But again, if I'm Jeff Hafley, I blitz. That is my game plan against JJ McCarthy, this young quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings, and, just make him panic. Get that pressure on him. You have Rashawn Gary and Micah Parsons on each edge pinching in on JJ McCarthy. I mean, this is what Hafley dreams about. You're facing the NFC North. You've only faced them 1 time this season in week 1. There has been a long pause, and now you have a gauntlet stretch against your own division at the end of the season. Why not start it off hot? Make JJ McCarthy feel uncomfortable in the pocket. The Packers could feel comfortable coming away with a win. But I'm not trying to get ahead of myself. We got many episodes to come. This game's not until Sunday. There'll be way more news on the Packers, way more news on the Vikings. Who knows if there's some new injury news or maybe new roster moves in general. Not trying to get too far ahead, but this is something that I wanted to bring up early in the week before we get more into detail for later down the road. But the final thing, I want to end this show kind of on a fun note. This is something that the Packers put out today on X on how Josh Jacobs joins an elite company with just 2 Hall of Fame running backs. I got these numbers up here because they are a lot of impressive ones that are too hard for me to remember off the top of my head, and I want to make sure I credit Mr. Jacobs correctly. Once again, the Packers on X posted this, saying Jacobs played his 100th NFL game on Sunday, in which he surpassed 7,500 career rushing yards. With that, he becomes the 3rd player in NFL history to hit the following marks in his first 100 games. Those 7,500 rushing yards, 70 rushing touchdowns, 250 receptions, and 2,000 receiving yards. There's only been 2 other guys to hit at least those marks. All of them have a plus, 7,500 plus rushing yards. Same goes for the rushing touchdowns, receptions, and receiving yards. But there are only 2 other players to do that. I don't know if you guys have any guesses. I'll give you about 5 seconds, or you can pause it, but I'll read them right now. 1, Emmitt Smith, and 2, Ladarius Tomlinson. What a company to be a part of if you are Josh Jacobs. This highlights how good of a running back he is, and I know he's hurt, might not play against the Vikings. That's what we talked about in the last episode, but I couldn't not share this with you guys. I'm not sure if you already saw the post before this episode, but that is absolutely incredible, and it shows why that was such a huge move for the Packers to make last season, to add him in Green Bay, have him here for 4 years, and it is just huge for him to be wearing green and gold. Once more, might not play against the Vikings with that knee injury, but you are very glad that it is not season ending and that it is as good news as day to day or week to week. Some guys are labeling it different things, but the most recent report of Adam Schefter seemed like it was more of a day to day. And if he were to miss any games, it would truly just be the one coming up on Sunday against Minnesota. But again, like I've said multiple times this episode, we'll get into all of that a little bit later. More news will be clear and more news will be set in stone the closer we climb to Sunday. But that's all I got for you guys today on this episode. I appreciate you tuning in. As always, had fun preparing for this episode with the many numbers on guys like Jaden Reed, the punt return unit, JJ McCarthy, and Josh Jacobs. Some of those positive numbers, some of those negative, but I enjoy prepping these episodes and putting them out for you guys nonetheless. Love talking about the green and gold. Love that I can provide you with information on the green and gold. And if there's anything else you want to see in these, I'm always open to suggestions. Want to provide you guys with the best content possible. But signing off, as always, with a Go Pack Go.